Okay guys, so welcome to today's presentation about protein. We're going to discuss everything you need to know about protein, including how much, how often you need to be eating it, what are the best types, and just why it's so important that you eat a certain amount per day. Okay, so a little bit about protein and the background of it. It's one of three macronutrients, inclusive of protein, carbohydrates, and fats. There's 4 calories per gram of protein. Its main function is for growth and repair. It's not necessarily used as an energy source, but it will in rare circumstances such as starvation and severe calorie restriction. And another cool point about protein is that it has a higher thermal effect compared to carbohydrates and fats, which basically means when you eat protein, your body actually has to use a lot more calories or energy to break it down when compared to fats or carbs. Okay, so what happens to protein when you consume it? Well, when you eat some protein, it gets broken down into your stomach and your small intestine into these things called amino acids. Okay, these amino acids are the building blocks of proteins. It's then sent to your liver for processing and shipped out for the rest of your body wherever it's needed for the role it provides. Not all protein is used at every one time, okay, so approximately 60% is catabolized and excreted, and about 40% of the protein that you eat is actually used. And then this little arrow or diagram down the bottom is just showing you what actually happens to protein once it goes from outside to inside your body. So you'll eat protein, consume it, gets digested, broken down into amino acids, and then it actually gets built back up into different protein structures within your body. The role of protein provides two main roles, functional and structural. Functional proteins are task orientated, they're extremely metabolically active, such as enzymes, okay? And these enzymes are responsible for a whole host of different things, and there are literally hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of enzymes in your body. One such example is enzymes for breaking down your food, okay? The other role protein's going to have, and this is one we're going to focus on today, is the structural role. Okay, so it actually forms the building blocks or makes things. Basically, all of you is made up of protein. So your bones, your skins, your hairs, your muscle, stomach, parts, liver, all of this is made up of protein. Okay, and again, more specifically, we're going to talk about skeletal muscle, or the muscle that we're looking to gain some more of. Muscle is comprised mainly of protein and water, and that's why it's so important and so crucial that we are consuming a certain amount of protein. There is a minimum requirement for protein that you need, okay, and the reason for that is because it's you need it's so vital that it's made up of your structures, and you've got functional proteins which are going to actually drive the metabolic functions in your body. There is a minimum requirement of protein you need a day to actually survive. Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about building muscle. Before we go on about building muscle, just for the girls, like maybe some of the guys, I'm not sure, you need to get this notion out of your head that when I'm talking about building muscle, that you're going to get big and bulky, okay? It's it's non-existent. Well, it is existent, but it's not going to happen, okay? You're not going to get huge um, after a couple of months of lifting some weights and eating protein, okay? It just doesn't happen like that. You've got to be concerned about with gaining as much muscle just like the lads, because you're going to look better and you're going to get stronger and your performance is going to increase. Okay, so get your head out of your butt and think more muscle equals good. And the guys as well that are interested in being really skinny, um, again, it's kind of the same idea with the girls. You want to focus on building as much muscle as you can, okay? Because this is going to benefit you, because you're going to look better and you're going to get stronger, and your performance in whatever your sport is, or even in the gym, if you're trying to lift more weight, is going to increase with the more muscle you have. Okay, and another cool thing about muscle is that it's actually responsible for most of your metabolic rate. So your metabolism, which you may uh, know by more commonly. The more muscle you have means the higher metabolism, okay, because that's where it occurs. which means you burn fat easier and faster. And this is why leaner people are able to cope with maybe eating more junky stuff or seem to stay leaner. It's because they'll have a little bit more muscle so they can handle this stuff better to break it down and utilize it. Okay, so we're going to go back to these amino acids. So you know amino acids are proteins that have been broken down within your stomach and small intestine. Okay, these amino acids is a really good analogy to think that they're bricks. And if you want to build a brick house, which we're going to say is the muscle, okay, so we're looking to build some more muscle, and the amino acids are the bricks, well then we're going to need these bricks to build a brick house. If you don't have the pool of amino acids, well then you can't build a brick house. Another couple of things about muscles and amino acids. Muscle is constantly breaking down and rebuilding. Okay, so they come at different rates depending on how hard you're training and how much protein that you're actually eating. So if the rate of breakdown of muscle tissue is greater than the rate of it gets rebuilt, well then no new muscle is actually going to be built, and in fact you may actually even lose muscle. So we always want the rate to remain the same, or ideally we're trying to increase the building rate and minimize the breakdown rate. And amino acids are going to stop the breakdown rate, okay, so it's going to put the halt on the breakdown rate, but it's also going to increase the rate of being built. Okay, so again, some of you may be thinking, I don't want to build muscle, I just want to look better, I want to lose weight, okay? That's great, that's what most of us are here for. And I just want to convey how important that consuming enough protein is, especially if you're in this category. Okay, so when you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to lose body fat, the rate of muscle breakdown actually increases, okay? So the increase of breakdown, or sorry, the breakdown rates increase and the building decreases. By consuming enough protein a day, it's actually going to slow down this breakdown rate, may even reverse it for you to actually build some muscle. And maybe you know by now that the idea that we're looking for here is to reduce our body fat percentage and not just lose weight. When we're talking about weight, we're talking about everything that we're comprised of, muscle and fat, okay, and all the other stuff. We don't want to lose everything, we just want to lose the fat. Okay, so your muscles come through, you're more defined, you're more toned. So that's the difference between weight loss and fat loss. We're looking for fat loss, so it's a really good idea if you take enough protein. Here it is just in a graph form. Okay, so I'm just going to talk you through this here. We've got two guys in our chart. We have Brian, which is the two bar charts on the left. Brian starts at 80 kilos and ends his weight training program or his training program at 82 kilos. Richie starts at 80 kilos also and ends up at 76 kilos. Okay, so looking at this really quick, it looks like Richie actually did better than Brian. He's actually down 6 kilos more, 4 kilos more than when he started. But if you look a little bit closer and you look at the two graphs, the yellow indicates lean mass. Lean mass is inclusive of your muscles, your bones, your organs, and basically everything that's not fat. Okay, and the blue indicates your fat mass. So if we look at the two guys that started, Brian started at 80 kilos. He's over on the left here. He's 70% lean mass and he's 30% fat mass. Okay, so his body fat's 30%. Richie also started at 30% body fat. Okay, so the two guys actually started the same, so they should be looking pretty similar. But as the training program comes to an end and Brian is up 2 kilos, he's actually gained a little bit of muscle. Okay, so he's now up to 80% lean mass and 20% body fat. So he's actually dropped 10% body fat while increasing some muscle, which is why he's a little bit heavier. Okay, so he's going to actually look pretty good. Compared to Richie at the end of the program, he's delighted with himself. His clothes are fitting better. He's 4 kilos less than he started. But if you actually take a closer look, he is up a tiny bit in his muscle mass, but he's only down a very small percentage in his fat mass. compared to brine. Okay, so it's just take a couple of minutes to maybe freeze it here and have a look at the difference. That brine at the end of his program is actually going to look better because his body fat percentage is low compared to Richie, who although has lost more weight, is at still a higher percent body fat. Okay, so now you know the importance of consuming enough protein and what it's going to do. It's going to keep the existing muscle you have, it's going to build on the muscle that you have, and it's going to reduce the breakdown of muscle and increase fat loss. But how much protein do you need? Okay, so it's anywhere between 0.6 and 1 gram per pound of body weight. Okay, so anywhere in this range. It depends on a couple of different factors where we won't get too deep into here. But just to keep it simple, it's probably best, most of you that are watching this, just to keep it at 1 gram per pound. Okay, so if you're a 200-pound dude, weighing 90 kilos, it means you're going to need approximately 200 grams of protein a day. Okay, no matter whether your goal is muscle gain or whether your goal is fat loss or your goal is performance or whatever your goal is that you want to do with your body or to do with your performance, the amount of protein that you need per day is still the same. Okay, it's still 1 gram per pound. So Julie, who's looking for fat loss, and Brian, that's looking for muscle gain, are both going to need 1 gram per pound per day. Okay, it's going to be the same on training and non-training days. You're going to need 1 gram per pound of body weight. So basically Monday to Sunday, 7 days a week, you need to eat the same amount of protein all the time. And more is not better. Okay, so shooting for a higher amount, thinking you're going to get better results, is not going to make any difference at all. So shoot for 1 gram per pound of body weight every single day. The benefits of doing this, okay, so there's a couple of benefits than eating the 1 gram per pound rather than just a minimal dose to keep you alive, which you'll see on the back of nutritional information products. Okay, first of all is the satiety. So protein makes you fullest the longest, which is a good thing if you're trying to lose weight and you're not eating the amount of food that you should. Okay, so your belly isn't going to be grumbling at you all day telling you to open that fridge door. Your body composition, which means fat lean mass ratio, is going to improve as discussed in the diagram. Your performance is going to get better. Why is your performance going to get better? Because you're going to have more muscle mass, okay? Which means you're going to be able to go faster, to jump higher, to lift more weights. You're going to get stronger. You're going to look more toned, you're going to look leaner, you're going to look ripped, and also you're actually going to improve your immune function. So if you're the type of person that gets sick a lot, well then increasing your protein intake to 1 gram per pound may actually reduce the amount of times you get sick throughout the year. Okay, so about frequency, how often should you be eating protein throughout the day? So you might have heard 2 meals, 3 meals, 4 meals, it goes up to as far as 9 or 10 meals I've even heard some people doing. Okay, both at extremes. Okay, you're looking just to consume protein throughout the day between 3 and 5 hours in between each meal. Okay, really important that you do space it throughout the day because your muscles or your body can only use a certain amount at a time. So if you try and save all your protein until the latter part of the day, like lunch and dinner, it can only use a certain amount of that, and you've actually missed out on a whole lot of time to consume protein in the morning. Okay, so this is the biggest mistake, not mistake, but this is one of the biggest issues I'd say about protein that a few of you in the gym are having, is skipping protein at breakfast and opting to choose for a fruit smoothie or Weetabix or porridge or anything like this basically. Okay, so what's after happening there is the longer you go without eating protein, the faster the rate of breakdown starts to occur. Okay, so this rate of protein breakdown will increase the longer you go without eating any protein. So let's say, for example, you go to bed at 10 o'clock. You haven't eaten 2 hours before bed, which is 8 o'clock. Okay, that was your last meal. You had some protein. Brilliant. If you then wake up the next day, don't have any protein, so you go for a cereal or your fruit smoothie or something like that, And the next time that you're consuming protein isn't until lunch, about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. You've gone about 15, 16, 17 hours now without consuming any protein. And what's going to happen is you probably will be too full to actually eat the required amounts at lunch and at dinner alone. Okay, so it's really important that you do start your day off consuming some protein. And whey protein is a really good option after training. Okay, so we're going to go through a little bit about the protein shakes and stuff like that now. So a couple of you ask about protein shakes. What protein shakes to take? Just get any whey protein. I use myprotein.com to get some whey protein. It's like €17 per kilo. It's really cheap. You don't need any fancy protein, diet protein, or okay, it's just whey protein. It all does the same thing. Another thing about protein shakes, again, more women are guilty of this, but I've heard a few lads that are kind of the same thing. That you think you're going to explode once you drink a couple of shakes, that you're going to turn into some muscle man or muscle woman. Okay, it's just protein. It's not going to do anything. It's not a drug. It's just a way of getting your requirements throughout the day. And no, it's not a magic bullet. So if your diet is absolutely disastrous and all you eat is cookies and ice cream and cereals, well, you're not going to make up for it and think you're going to get results by just necking 4 or 5 protein shakes throughout the day, okay? So you've got to sort out your diet before maybe turning to protein shakes. So the better protein sources are going to be basically from most of the animals of the land, okay? So lean beef, steak, turkey, chicken, pork, egg whites, fish, cottage cheese, all really, really, really high sources of high quality protein. You still will get some great quality sources from vegetarian options like beans and pulses, but just not the same quantity as these animal sources here, okay? So ideally what you want to do is include one of these sources in breakfast, lunch and dinner. Okay, so any of your meats, your fishes, your egg whites, your cottage cheese at breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then after exercise, or possibly as a snack option, you're consuming your whey protein. Okay, why? Just because this is really easy to digest. It's fast absorbing. And you know now that when you're training, you're actually doing damage to your muscle. You're breaking down your muscle tissue. So what do you need to do? You need to build it, repair it, and grow it. So that's why consuming a protein shake just makes the whole process a little bit quicker. Adding a carbohydrate, which we've discussed in the nutrition workshops, adding a carbohydrate after you exercise will speed up the delivery of protein to your muscles, okay, which increases the rate of recovery. Why is that important? Because you're going to be ready for your next training session to hit it harder, to go longer. Okay, so we're almost there. So what are you going to do next? What are you going to take away from this presentation? Right, well first you got to take action, okay? So you got to use what you just learned. First thing you got to do is calculate your daily protein needs. Okay, remember that 1 gram per pound of body weight, man or woman, no matter whether your goal is fat loss or muscle gain. So for example, a 150-pound woman needs 150 grams of protein, 200-pound guy needs 200 grams of protein. The hand portion sizes that we discussed in the nutrition workshops are kind of going to, more than likely will bring you around this range anyway, okay? But just do a quick check to make sure that you are getting the required amount, okay? By reading the back of food labels and by going on to Google and just checking how much protein is in a certain amount of food. And then this is just an example of how to calculate your protein. I'm just taking again a 150-pound woman as an example here. So how are we going to calculate her needs? So we know she needs 150 grams of protein. Okay, so how do we get that 150 grams of protein? Well, for every 100 grams of turkey or chicken or steak or fish or cottage cheese or the stuff I mentioned above or before, there's about 30 grams of protein. Okay, so for every 100 grams of this product, there's about 30 grams of protein. So all we're doing is dividing 30 into 150, which means that this lady here should be eating 5 portions of 100 grams. Okay. A chicken breast is anywhere between 100 and 200 grams, so it doesn't necessarily mean you need 5 chicken fillets. It could mean that you need 2 big chicken fillets throughout the day or something like that, okay? Um, yeah, so get to work, calculate how much protein you need, make sure you're hitting the required amounts, and you'll notice a huge difference in your strength, your body composition, and performance over time.